Hello, welcome once again to Leto's Law. I'm Steve Leto. I had somebody ask me a question today via email, and they said, Steve, I saw you quoted in an article on Jalopnik, and I've got some follow-up questions. And I thought to myself, it's been a little while since I was quoted on Jalopnik. I used to write for Jalopnik, and I also wrote for roadandtrack.com. But Tom McParland, who's a good friend of mine, often writes about used car buying on Jalopnik, and he'll call me from time to time to get legal opinions on things, or just insight into car buying, because I've dealt with a lot of bad car buying experiences on behalf of my clients. So the funny thing is that the person who contacted me said they had something happen to them that was described in this article. So it's a great article that Tom McParland wrote, and I will put a link to the article below a little over a year ago. And I double checked. I wasn't sure if I'd talked about this topic before. I've talked about things close to it, or I've also talked about the topic just in passing, but never a full video on it. What we're talking about is when the car dealership, you buy a vehicle from them and you trade in a vehicle. You sign your papers, you leave. The car dealership calls you up later and says, hey, we made a mistake and overpaid you on your trade-in. You need to come in and give us some more money. Now, I know that many of my more sophisticated audience members are laughing right now, saying, Steve, this is a joke, right? No, it's not. I've heard it often enough, and so has Tom McParland, to where this is actually a thing. And by thing, it's a joke, but some dealerships will do anything to squeeze extra money out of you. And so I will explain, and I'm going to admit right now, I like the way Tom wrote this story so much, I'm going to use his article as the skeletal structure of this video. And so the article is headlined, Watch Out for Dealers Who Say They Overpaid You for Your Trade After a Contract Was Signed. And again, link below. So you would hope that after you sign the sales contract that you wouldn't have to be hassled by the dealer anymore. And yes, as most people will tell you, they'd rather go to the dentist and get like invasive surgery done than go buy a car. So when you can end that transaction, it's kind of like you don't want the dentist chasing you out in the parking lot saying, hey, I've got more work to do, hang on, and he's got dental tools in his hands. That's a nightmare. So likewise, when the dealership calls you several days later, unless they're calling to say, hey, how do you like your new car? You don't want that phone call. So Tom says, I've been getting an alarming number of emails from readers with scenarios similar to this one. And here's a scenario somebody sent him. I traded in my 2016 Subaru and got a different car over a month ago. I have since made a car payment on my new car and have had no contact from the dealership. Today, a finance manager called me and stated they had overquoted me on my trade-in by $140 and that I need to come in and pay them. $140. Question, do I have to pay them this money? When I traded in my car and they gave me a trade-in value, isn't that part of the contract? Did they conveniently make a mistake so that I would have to come back and give them more money? And so Tom says a variation on this scenario has to do with minor paperwork fees in the amount of $100 or less, and that the dealer forgot to charge you. And now they want you to either pay the money or redo the contract. Of course, this is very similar to a topic we previously covered about dealers making a mistake on your contract and demanding that you come back in to sign a new one, which of course has always got you paying more money. Funny how that works. More often than not, this is a ploy for them to change the numbers and make you pay more. Now, he says the interesting thing about both cases is that in the grand scheme of a new car sale, $100 to $200 is a small amount. If a legitimate dealer really did make a mistake to the tune of $140, they would probably just eat it. Badgering what should have been a happy customer for that amount of money is not good for business. So here's where I come in. Tom writes, I consulted friend of Jalopnik and consumer protection attorney Steve Leto because he has a lot more experience with these kind of tactics. And yes, I've dealt with car dealers up one side and down the other. Cliche, cliche. And this is the quote I sent him after we discussed this. Quote, Steve Leto. And by the way, if this is not somehow me quoting myself on a video, the tail of the snake's eating its own tail. Quote, these figures were all memorialized in the sales contract, correct? And I use contract in all caps. If so, then the consumer can ignore these kind of after-the-fact attempts to gouge for more money. That's what I called it. After-the-fact attempts to gouge for more money. What I like to point out is this. Has a dealer ever called a consumer and said, we underquoted you on your trade-in. Come back so we can hand you a couple $100. Has that ever happened in history? We made a mistake in our favor. Here, come get your money. The reason that never happens is because these scenarios are generally fictional, meaning that they're just made up. As in, the dealers made them up out of thin air. See, it's funny. I can read my own mind. I can also read my own writing. And I know the article's by Tom, but this quote is a block quote I emailed him. So it is my own writing inserted into his writing. I suspect the salespeople and finance people sit around on slow days and try to figure out ways to make a couple $100, and this is the kind of nonsense they come up with, unquote. And I'm convinced of that. I am convinced that, like right now, trust me, it's dark outside and it's rainy. And I've had people point out, and they say, Steve, but we can see the weather. Oh, I moved it. My name plaque is back here now. But when the name plaque was here, people could often see the trees moving in the reflections of that plaque. And they say, Steve, it looks like it's windy where you are. It was dark and stormy today. It was a dark and stormy day. And I assure you there are used car lots in major cities around Michigan where there were salespeople sitting at their cubicles, twiddling their thumbs, as we say. Nothing to do. And I'm convinced that some days like that, some of the finance people and the other different people in management, maybe some salespeople, sit around and go, what could we do to make more money? What could we do? I mean, we've already tried selling the cars. We've tacked on every add-on we can think of. We've invented things like dealer fees and double secret fees and probationary fees and whatever else fees we can come up with. Fabric protection, paint protection, rust sealant. They literally window etching. We've come up with everything we can possibly do. Somebody goes, well, what about? And here's the thing. In the world, in the population of humanity, we all know this. They're like alpha males and alpha females. Those are the people who take charge. They know what they're doing. They don't take guff from anybody. It's a word I haven't used in a while. The other end of the spectrum are the people who really shouldn't leave the house with money because it'll be parted from them, if you know what I mean. And I know people who know me. They know what I do for a living. They talk to me. And yet they go car shopping and they come back and they buy a car. I go, where? They tell me. I go, how'd you negotiate? They go, negotiate? No, I paid the price. You know, if there's a price on it, I paid the price. And I'm like, why would you do that? And they go, well, I go to a store, I pick up an item, it's got a price tag, and I pay the price. That's the sucker price. No one pays that price. What's wrong with you? And they're like, really? Yes, you can negotiate. I go, how much could I save? You could save thousands of dollars if you simply negotiated. Really? And then we have the same conversation 3-4 years down the road. And of course, when they trade that vehicle in, the person they're trading the vehicle in actually pulls out a thing and goes, oh yeah, I looked at a blue book and your car's only worth $500. Yeah, sorry, it's all we can give you for it. Knowing full well that this person is not looking after their best interest because they don't know what they're doing and they're incapable of it, will take anything on the trade and pay full price for the car. Those kinds of people have more money that can be wrung out of them. This is the symbol. I've been using this lately. This is when they wring money out of you. Wringing the last drop out of your wallet. What more can we do to those people to get more money out of them? Because clearly they're a faucet. We can open that spigot up and money just flows out of them into our coffers. COFFERS, coffers. And how can we get more money out of them? And they go, we can call them up and say, we made a mistake. We accidentally gave them too much in their trade. And now, I wouldn't fall for that. You wouldn't fall for that. Tom McParland wouldn't fall for that. In fact, I've gotten phone calls about that sensible that I've laughed at. You kidding me? What's wrong with you? But there are people out there who will fall for this. And the only way to make this kind of stuff stop is to let people know. Let people know. So if you have someone in your life who does that kind of shopping, where they actually walk in and go, how much is that car? Oh, okay, I'll pay it. They need your help. Now, you might not be able to give them as much help as they need because they need a lot of help. But you need to pay attention and listen to their stories. And so when they tell you that, hey, I have to go back to the dealership where I bought my car 2 weeks ago because they accidentally didn't charge me enough. The person almost needs a legal guardian to step in and just take over their affairs. But you can step in and say, excuse me, no, you do not need to go in. No, because there is a contract. It's a legally binding contract. Now, if you said, Steve, let's take this to its absurd result ends. Like it's a there's a spectrum of whether it's possible or not. Is it possible that they made a mistake in your favor and they honestly believe that to be true? Is it possible? It's possible, but they made a mistake on a contract they drafted. And in most states, I feel bad even saying this out loud, but in most states, mistakes in a contract and ambiguities in a contract are construed against the drafting party, meaning that they were the one in control of the contract. You weren't, it was them. They made a mistake that hurt them. Now, obviously, if it's something crazy, like they literally got the entire VIN wrong, and the contract reflects the wrong VIN, and they say, look, we want you to come back in just to correct the VIN, well, it's no more money out of your pocket. It's a wasted trip into the dealership. And that might be something that you want to look at. But when they say, no, we made a math error in your favor, you got to come back and fix this math error for us. Just laugh at them and hang up. And the next step, if they legitimately believed what they were saying, is they would sue you for it. Are they going to sue you for $140? We're in small claims court? $140? You know something? I'd take that case all day long on principle. Go into court and say, what? Judge, they drafted the contract. Now they're claiming that they overpaid on the trade-in? And I would ask the judge, do you honestly think in the history of this dealership or any other dealership in the Western Hemisphere, any used car dealers ever called up the customer and said, the other thing happened. We accidentally gave you too little money. Here, come have some money. Has it ever happened? No, and there's a reason for it. Contract is final. They drafted it. They're out of luck. So, dealership says they overpaid you. Come back in and give more money. Don't go. And if your friend tells you that's what's happening, stop them. If you love your friend, stop them. There you go. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.